Dad, who do you think is actually watching these?
Maybe someone.
Okay, well, bye, someone.
No. Wait. Spider-Man Brand New Day might have the hardest challenge of any Spider-Man movie ever made. After the massive success of No Way Home, Marvel now has to convince fans that this next chapter is worth getting excited about. And honestly, that is a much bigger challenge than people realize. When I first started looking into Spider-Man Brand New Day, one thing kept coming back to my mind. How do you follow a movie like No Way Home? That film was a moment that brought together decades of Spider-Man history. That was one of the best superhero movies ever released. For a lot of fans, it was something they had been waiting years to experience. You had Tom Holland's Spider-Man, the return of Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, and a story that connected generations of fans together. Now, Marvel has to move forward. And that is where things get interesting, because Brand New Day is entering a completely different situation. Peter Parker's life has changed, the world around him has changed, and fans are wondering whether this new direction can capture the same excitement. This is the main reason why people are excited. Even with all the pressure, there's a lot of excitement surrounding the movie. One thing I think fans are especially interested in is seeing Peter Parker in a completely different place. At the end of No Way Home, Peter had made one of the biggest sacrifices we have ever seen from this version of the character. He gave up the people closest to him in order to protect them, and now he has to continue forward without the support system that he had. Personally, I think that opens up some really interesting possibilities. A lot of fans have wanted to see a more traditional Spider-Man story, the kind where Peter is trying to balance being a hero while also dealing with the everyday struggles of life. That is what makes this movie exciting. We are getting a chance to see what happens when Peter Parker has to rebuild himself from the ground up. There's this massive pressure after No Way Home, but at the same time, that excitement comes from a lot of expectations. No Way Home gave audiences something incredibly difficult to repeat. The movie had years of history behind it, and the emotional impact came from seeing different eras of Spider-Man come together. Brand New Day has to create its own identity. I think that is the biggest conversation around this movie right now. Fans are asking whether a more personal Spider-Man story can have the same impact after experiencing something as massive as No Way Home. Because Spider-Man has always been about more than just the villains or the action. The reason people connect with Peter Parker is because the person behind the mask. If Marvel gets it right, this movie has a real chance to connect with audiences. Another thing people are paying attention to is how much Marvel influence will be in this movie. Over the years, one of the biggest discussions around Spider-Man has always been whether the stories can stand independently while still being a part of the larger Marvel universe. The excitement around characters like the Punisher and other possible connections is understandable because fans love seeing these worlds collide. At the same time, the biggest thing audiences want is a great Peter Parker story. When people think about the best Spider-Man movies, they usually remember the emotional moments. They remember Peter's journey. They remember the choices he had to make. That is what Brand New Day needs to capture. Now, will this movie be a hit? Looking at the situation right now, there's a lot of reasons to believe it has a strong chance. Spider-Man remains one of the most popular characters in the world. Tom Holland has built a strong connection with fans, and audiences clearly still care about where this version of Peter Parker goes next. But the reason this movie is so interesting is because success will be measured in more than just money. Fans want a movie that feels meaningful. They want a story that gives Peter Parker a reason to continue. And they want to feel the excitement they had when they first saw him on screen. Here are my final thoughts on this. For me, this is why Spider-Man Brand New Day has such an interesting challenge ahead. The movie doesn't have to recreate the exact experience of No Way Home. That was a unique moment that came from years of Spider-Man history coming together. What it does need is to remind audiences why they love this character. Peter Parker has always been one of Marvel's most human heroes. He makes a lot of mistakes. He has visible struggles. And he keeps moving forward, even when life becomes difficult. That is the version of Spider-Man fans want to see. I think Brand New Day has a lot of potential because the foundation is already there. The character is beloved, the audience is invested, and people genuinely want to see what happens next. But whether this movie becomes another Spider-Man classic will come down to one thing. Does it give fans a story they will remember? Because at the end of the day, people don't just show up for Spider-Man powers, they show up for Peter Parker. What do you think? Do you believe Spider-Man Brand New Day can live up to the expectations? Or do you think following No Way Home is too difficult? Let me know your thoughts.